So I am the founder of Lost Voices. I've done a lot of things in my life. I've had the opportunity to experience a lot of different things, being a musician from the time I was 7 years old. 12 years ago, I was invited for Career Day to go to W.J. Maxey Boys Training School. I was speaking with someone earlier about who had worked at Maxey or done some volunteer work there. And I knew nothing about it. I write sophomore jokes for a living. I really didn't know about kids at risk. So I went out to Maxey not knowing what I was going to see. What I saw was our children. I stood there in the library where I was going to speak to these groups. I saw this first group come along. They were boys walking with their arms folded, right shoulder against the wall, in order of height, not speaking. They had little things riveted around their wrists, locators. There was a guy flanking them. He wasn't in uniform, but he's clearly a guard. They call him staff. I thought, my God, this is prison, and those are our children. They're no different from my child. Different colors, different sizes, but they're my child. And I spoke to them, and as I talked to them about how you could make a living writing sophomore jokes, I could see the fire in their eyes. You could make a living with your thoughts? Who even cares about what we think, what we feel? So I started a creative writing program with the kids. I had been doing that for teenagers for years, and I knew the value of letting young people express themselves or helping them. One thing led to another. I did a website or a documentary. I got a NEA grant and did a 15-minute mini doc on one of my kids called Young Poet Incarcerated. I will urge you to go to lostvoices.org when you get a chance and prowl around their website a little bit. That documentary is on there. You will cry. It's wonderful. This is one guy. I did 8 of his poems. Now I'm going to tell you, I get emotional. The reason, it's not sadness. It's not sadness that makes me emotional. It's happiness. I think of the faces. I think of the things that the kids I've worked with go through. So forgive me as it happens. I understand it. I got a call from the Michigan Humanities Council. They were the grantor of this money that I was working on with this mini grant. They said, we got some more money. Would you, we got $25,000. Would you be willing to do some more work with the kids? We love what you're doing. And we'll write the grant. We will do all the assessment, the evaluation. We'll just hand you a check and you'll just do it. I thought this was how grants worked. Yeah. So I took this grant. They said, what would you like to do? And I said, music. It's got to be music. Music has saved my life many, many times. And there was a musicality in everything these kids did that I felt was really important. So I called a fellow named Josh White Jr. Now, if you're not familiar with Josh, his dad wrote the version of House of the Rising Sun we're familiar with. When I was 18 years old, I was a rocker. I was a rock and roll musician in the 60s in Chicago. And I went off to college. I was sick of having friends and money, so I decided to become a folk singer. And to do that, I was buying Josh White records, Josh White Senior records, because his kid, who was about 7, 8 years older than me, was playing 12-string guitar on him. And I just, I wanted to learn them guitar licks, that kid. So Josh White Jr. was my remote mentor when I was 18 years old. Now here he is living in Michigan. So I called him up, and we went out to Maxey, and he said, okay, boss, what's the plan? I said, I have no plan whatsoever. We're going to write some music with these kids. He said, they're not going to like folk music. I said, no, probably not, but that's what they're going to write. We're going to introduce them to it. We're going to sing it for them. We're going to show them how easy it is and how, not easy to play, but it's accessible music. You can hear it, you can feel it. It's about storytelling. And I said, they'll get it. Oh, I don't think it'll work. It did. The first group of kids we had at Maxey they're all convicted felons. Now, if you're not familiar with Maxey, this is the end of the line for juvenile offenders in Michigan. These are all kids that were kind of on the border. If they didn't make it through there, they were going to big boy prison. Sadly, Maxey has been shut down, so those kids are at big boy prison anyway. But these were hard cases, but they're also children. They're 14, 15-year-old kids. And we wrote songs with them, and they immediately understood the concept, and they dove in. We had a group we had a reporter from WUOM come out. She wanted to do a little piece on us, and that piece is on our website. You can hear it. I told her, now these are incarcerated teenage boys. These guys have been away from girls for a while, so kind of think about how you dress and that sort of thing. Don't want to tell you how to dress, just think about it. She showed up looking great, a little tiny skirt, and she brought along an intern who was like 22 years old in a little tiny skirt and stone gorgeous. I'm thinking, oh God, what chance do we have with these guys? And then to top it off, we had the intern crawling around, but from guy to guy with a microphone. As a guy would speak, she'd crawl over to him. It's like, this couldn't possibly be distracting, could it? Amazingly, the kids snapped back, and after about 5 minutes, they forgot about those women. And they went back to focusing on the song, because the song meant that much to them. When you listen to this interview, you'll hear the kids, one of the kids said, I don't know, I've been preached to all my life. You hear Josh White Jr. go, Mister, you don't know me. I've been preached to all my life. It's like, wow, one of the greatest lines I've heard in music, much less in this sort of thing. And the kids, it's just amazing. To put it in a nutshell, the final result of what we do is that the kids will support each other. They will dig into their hearts deeper than you can imagine, and reveal their thoughts, reveal them. How many of you, putting aside all those wonderful musicians here, I'm afraid to pick up my guitar because there's all these pros here, but how many of you would love to come up here and grab a guitar and sing a song for this group right now? Not very many of you, right? A few. But most of you, I mean, it would take, now how about that song being about the deepest fear that you ever had? How about that song being about how your father raped you? How would you, these children do that. These children have the courage. They spend a week writing these songs with us. We give them the permission to talk about anything they want to talk about in their music. We do the guitar work for them, we support them, we do whatever, and then we put them on stage in front of their peers, in front of their teachers, sometimes parents, sadly rarely parents, to sing their songs. And these children walk up to the microphone and they go, here's my heart, take a look. In front of a room like this. It's amazing. And it's just, we were walking out after that first session at Maxie. Josh and I and a fellow named Reverend Robert Jones were walking out, and a guy stopped me. He said, excuse me, I just want to talk to you for a second. The kids were being transported back to their rooms. And he said, I just want to tell you, I've worked with that little, I'm a psychiatrist, and I've worked with that little shit over there for 2.5 years. I gotta tell you, this kid he was a rough kid. He was, but he was really productive. He did a lot. He said, I just want to tell you, he showed me more in 2.5 minutes on your stage than he has in 2.5 years in my office. He said, I just want to shake your hand. What we do breaks down the transactional barrier. Now, you've probably read that we do a lot of work with sex trafficked kids. About the last 4 years, we've been working with Vista Maria, and more than half of the girls we work with there are trafficking survivors. We're working in October. We're going to be working at a thing called the Manasseh Project in Grand Rapids. It's all sex trafficked kids, and these are 12, 13, 14-year-old girls. I'm not going to talk about that. We can talk about it afterwards. I'll be happy to talk to anybody. And I'm not really an expert in human trafficking. I'm not a law enforcement guy. Do we have some law enforcement people in the room here? Anybody? Yeah. Okay. Oh, so you know. You can tell us more about this than I can on that. And my hat's off to law enforcement for the restraint they show, because I would be probably more angry if I was on that side of it. We're on the healing side of it. We can take these children and they can express anything they feel. I had a girl at the Adrian Girls Training School. I'm going to start getting the guitar queued up. See, professionals do that. This girl was really a tortured child. She was when you'd ask her, we do two things. We write a group song with the kids. We'll start and we'll have every kid chip in for every word of the song. I could do that with this room. I could come to a consensus of what every one of us is thinking about today. It's way easier. In a group of 12 kids, it's pretty easy. You ask kids what's on your mind. You get boys, pizza, you get stuff that you don't even want to hear. But they'll always come up with something that they can agree on. Then we write individual songs. I will ask each kid, okay, what do you think? And sometimes they'll start silly and they'll switch over to something really, really earth-shaking. We did a group, we worked with a group in Whaley where I had a little 6-year-old girl in the group. And what do you like? Her name was Hope. Isn't that beautiful? So what do you like, Hope? I like apples. Okay, do you want to write about apples? Yes. But I also like fairies. Well, do you want to write about fairies? Yes. So let's write about apple fairies. So she wrote a song about an apple fairy. and buried within this song was some of her sadness, some of her happiness, some of her joy. She was allowed to be a 6-year-old child instead of the commodity that someone had tried to make her. So this particular girl at Adrian, this was the first couple years we were doing this. Her name escapes me. Misty. Her name was Misty. And Misty, I'd ask her, Misty, do you have anything you want to sing? No. I ain't like them smart girls. I ain't like them pretty girls. I got nothing. Oh, Misty, that's not true. But you don't have to do anything you're not ready to do. Every day, I'd ask her, Misty, got anything? I ain't like them smart girls. I ain't like them pretty girls. Finally, Misty came in one day. She looked like she'd been thrown out of a car. Every bit of skin was abraded. They wear baggy t-shirts and baggy shorts. And everything you could see, her face, everything was abraded. And I asked the woman from her cottage, what happened to Misty? Well, she got hold of a piece of carpet burn, and carpet burned her entire body. Can you imagine? So the self-loathing this child had. And it was so undeserved. I don't know what it came from. But and then finally, one day she handed me a little scrap of paper. And the scrap of paper said, love is not hard to find. You can find it in a friendly face. You can find it in a friendly place. Misty, this is really cool. And she wrote down a bunch of places you can find love. Of course, Kitty Donahoe was working with me on that one. Kitty started playing. She started playing a little riff. Like this. And so we worked with Misty for a while. And here's the song we came up with. Oh, love is not hard to find. Love is not hard to find. Love is not hard to find. Oh, love is not hard to find. Love is not hard to find. Love is not hard to find. I'll bet you guys could all sing that chorus without song sheets. You can find it in a friendly face. You can find it in a friendly place. Love is not hard to find. You can find it in a midnight sky. You can find it in a baby's cry. Love is not hard to find. Oh, love is not hard to find. Love is not hard to find. Love is not hard to find. Well, I got about a third of you. Oh, love is not hard to find. Love is not hard to find. Love is not hard to find. So Misty, when she heard this coming out of Kitty Donahoe, was like, wow, that sounds great. And we worked on it all week long, and all the other kids loved that song. Every time they heard it, they just wanted to sing along, so they all did. When it came down to the show, I told the girls, now girls are really fun to work with in these cases. When you start talking about they're going to put on a show, then we say, well, we'll wear green gowns and we'll be going like this. No, you aren't going. You're going to be wearing baggy shorts, but that's okay. But the girls were all excited about the show, and I explained to them that the second most important song that you do in a show is the first song, because that sets the tone for the entire show, right? The most important song is the last one, because that's when they leave singing. So Misty, we're doing your song last. So here it was. You can find it in the summer sky. You can find it when you're warm and dry. Love is not hard to find. You can find it in a busy street when you're doing something sweet. Love is not hard to find. Let's sing it. Oh, love is not hard to find. Love is not hard to find. Love is not hard to find. Oh, love is not hard to find. Love is not hard to find. Love is not hard to find. So we sang that as the last song of their concert. Now all the kids got up there and did their things, poured out their hearts, and then we all stood up and we sang Misty's song for her. We told everybody, this here is Misty's song. Nobody else's is hers. And when we're done, we're all standing on stage, hugging each other and feeling really great because we just climbed a mountain. Those kids, can you imagine the fear they had going into this? And how great they felt afterwards? You know? So we're all standing around, and as we're standing there, the girls from the Green Cottage, these were drug offenders. They were the smart girls, the pretty girls. They were walking out. What do you think they were doing? They were singing. They were all going, love is not hard to find. Love is not hard to find. Love is not hard to find. Oh, love is not hard to find. Love is not hard to find. Love is not hard to find. And I was able to stand there with Misty, and I said, Misty, you hear that? I said, all those girls, what are they singing? They're singing your song. So let's do it one more time. Oh, love is not hard to find. Love is not hard to find. Love is not hard to find. Oh, love is not hard to find. Love is not hard to find. Love is not hard to find. Thank you. Now to make that story even better, every group we work with now, we work with groups of 8 to 12 kids. And every group we work with now writes their own verses to that song.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's great.
Yep. Well, wouldn't you love to tell Misty? I don't know whatever happened to her. Now here's the sad thing about what we do. We don't get to track them. I'll have people to ask me, in groups like this, there are a lot of practical people, a lot of, these are movers and shakers. This is the Rotary Club. Yeah, but people will be saying, well, what are the outcomes? What's the statistical? What's the recidivism among the kids you work with? I have no idea. I don't know. For one thing, I can't. They're minors. They're wards of the state. I can't track them. The state doesn't even track them accurately, sadly, because they can't. There's a separation between juvenile justice and corrections, which there should be. But, so I don't know what the recidivism, and it doesn't really matter, truthfully. I don't know the outcomes of the kids. I do know, and I can tell you this, I can absolutely promise you that every single kid we've worked with is better for having done it. It's because we find a spark of greatness. And it's not that hard. All I got to do is say, what's in your heart? And let them understand that I don't want anything from them except what's in their heart. That's it. And they bring it out and they express it, and what they get is what I got here. You know, all the musicians in here, right? And it's addictive. There's nothing better than applause. When you're a child whose entire life has been transactional, you traded sex for breakfast. You know, these children have been hard places. When you're that child and you stand up in a room full of people, clap for your deepest feelings, that's got to be life-changing. It's got to be. And we know it. Now, I do have one kid. I have one story that is 100. I know there's a bunch of completely good stories out there. I just don't know them. I did have one young guy. I was playing at the Ark, and with Kitty Donahoe, and Kitty and I were. Oh, I think Josh was with me too. We were coming back from Connor O'Neill. I had a sandwich before the show, and the rope line was starting to add up there, and I think, thank God, there's going to be some people here. And out of the rope line pops this blonde afro. And it's a young man, Mr. Ball, do you remember me? It's like, Jarrell? Are you kidding me? This is a kid that I worked with at Matsy 5 years previously. He was a hard case. He was like clockwork orange violent. He's also brilliant. The kid I did the documentary on the website is also like that. Super violent, super hard case, but brilliant. And this kid was wonderful. And you couldn't forget this big blonde afro because he was wonderful. It turned, and he said, yeah, my mom and I heard you spread in the paper. You guys were going to be at the Ark, so I came out to see you. So, wow, okay, I'll see you inside. I went upstairs and back to the green room, and I thought, wait a minute, Jarrell is here. Geez, wait a minute, what am I thinking? So I went back out, and they had let the crowd in by that time, so I went out and found him. And I said, dude, would you be interested in coming up on stage and saying a little something, talk about Lost Voices a little bit? He said, oh, heck yeah, I'll do it. I said, do you happen to remember the song you wrote 5 years ago? Yeah, I remember it. Okay, so this kid, of course, Mr. Weedy here, I said, okay, I'm gonna have a volunteer take you by the green room. There's a little ramp onto the stage if you've never been to the Ark. But if you've never been there, change that, go there. It's a great place. But I said, I'm gonna have a volunteer take you up there. So I'll introduce you. At the end of the set, I'll introduce you and you can walk up and talk and sing. So I'm going through the whole first set singing and do myself, but I'm also writing this speech that I'm gonna give. It's gonna be wonderful. I'm gonna say all these wonderful things about Jarrell. And so I said, I finished the last song and said, okay, now I've got a really special treat for us. I'd like to introduce, because there he stood. So I didn't get much of the speech out. And he came out and he said, this kid has, he earned out. When you're, I'm not sure the exact right terminology, but when you're sentenced as a juvenile, you have a chance. If you get the right sentence, you can earn out. You can jump through all the hoops and satisfy the judge and get everything done right, and then you get to you'll get your sentence expunged. It's a long, hard thing. Not many kids make it through it. I talked to his mom at intermission, and because Jarrell was one of those guys who walked away and thought, he'll be better in prison. You know, I mean, he'll be a better prisoner than he would have been. And you kind of get that in your head. I said, what happened? She said, you guys flipped the switch. She said, he was in there and he wasn't doing it. He wasn't cooperating. He wasn't getting the opportunity he had. And you guys flipped the switch. When he finished that week with you guys, he was just, he dug in. And he spent the next 2 years fighting his way through, getting everything right. Then he was on probation for a couple of years. At the same time, he earned a degree. He got a job. He's now, Jarrell is now working on a construction crew down in making houses, a home construction crew in Dayton, Ohio. Every time I see him, he wants to show me pictures. I did the roof on this house. See, I did that. You know, he's got a little boy. He's married. He's got a little baby. Yeah, changed his life. Now, it wasn't us that did it. I will hesitate. What we do didn't change his life. What we do lit the fire, flipped the switch, showed him the spark to let him change his life. And that is what we do. And we have some time for some questions. I'll be happy to answer anything you have.
some questions here, right here.
Yes.
Susan Smith, would you mind singing the song that you sang at Kiwanis?
I would be happy to.
Thank you.
So this is a song that the kids were having trouble coming up with their group song. And one of the kids said, you know, there's this weird poster in one of the offices. It's this guy looking at a tank. And of course, it's a young guy holding a shopping bag, staring right down the barrel of a tank can. And those of us who are old enough, most of you aren't, but those of us who are old enough to remember Tiananmen Square, that iconic sight of that young guy, the kids didn't know anything about that. But so I told them, you know, that people were being killed. It's called the Tiananmen Square Massacre for a reason. People were being, and this guy stood in front of that tank. The tank had tried to go that way around him, he'd step that way. The tank could go that way. And I explained it, and the kids went, wow, that's what courage is all about. Can we write a song about that? Yeah. So here's the song. I am a student in Tiananmen Square, standing for the rights of helpless people everywhere. With a cannon in my face, no hatred in my eyes, I will hold this ground for liberty, even if I die. What's it gonna take? How many lives? How many voices left unheard? How many tears? How many years? Till the ones in power hear the word. I am a young boy in Afghanistan, fighting for the freedom of the people in my land. I will stop at nothing for the promise to be free. I will even give my life to put an end to tyranny. What's it gonna take? How many lives? How many voices left unheard? How many tears? How many years? Till the ones in power hear the word. I am an immigrant in the USA. Though I try to work, I am offered little pay. I may speak another language, but still I understand that everywhere I go, I'm seen as less than a man. What's it gonna take? How many lives? How many voices left unheard? How many tears? How many years? Till the ones in power hear the word. I am a black man in the East Detroit streets, trying to find the courage to throw away my heat. It's time to put an end to the games. It's time to make a change. Because this life of violence, I must rearrange. What's it gonna take? How many lives? How many voices left unheard? How many tears? How many years? Until the ones in power hear the word. Till they hear the word. Thank you. That's difficult. Thank you so much. Thank you. So much. I will stay around to answer questions and talk to anybody who wants to talk. So,
One quick question. When was that written?
that was written in about 12 years ago. So
Oh, wow.
at Maxie. That was written by boys at Maxie Boys. Yes.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Mike Ball. Awesome.